mom without a crystal ball. Welcome to my channel. It's Tuesday afternoon and I have so many things that I want to talk about, and there's so many videos I want to make, but I can only make one at a time. And so right now I'm going to talk about the Roloffs, and later I'm probably going to talk about the Goslings, and I'll maybe throw in a teen mom video later today as well. I'm so not sure. I am feeling really good and I am so ready to bring you some updates. Now, Little People Big World is on TLC on Tuesday nights, and they are in this 21st season. 21st season, that's a lot of seasons. And apparently this season is not going to be the last. Now, Matt sort of squashed those rumors on Instagram a few months ago when it started to circulate that this might be their last season. So before we get to the tea, make sure that you do me a favor by subscribing to my channel down here, as well as give this video a thumbs up. And if you love this kind of content, make sure you share it with your friends. And as always, leave me a comment and let me know your thoughts. Okay, so this week is another episode of Little People, Big World. And we know this season is going to be riddled with chaos between Matt and Amy, because Amy is leaving the farm and Matt is being controlling and wants her gone. And Amy is a hoarder, according to Matt and to his son, Zach, and Amy just says she's having a harder time letting go of things. So in tonight's episode, you will see some of that, but we're going to talk more about what's going on with Lilah and Tori and Zach. Okay, so Tori and Zach have been married for a few years. They have a little boy named Jackson, and then they have a baby named Lilah. Both children have a form of dwarfism, the same that Zach has. And because of that, Tori spends a lot of her time a little bit nervous about all the various health conditions that can be comorbid along with the dwarfism. So naturally, her mama heart was a little bit stressed out this week because Lilah starts acting a little bit funny. So on this episode, Tori talks about how she is concerned because Lilah is sleeping a lot. She seems to be fussy. She doesn't seem to be comfortable. She's having a hard time keeping her formula or she's having a hard time keeping anything down. And all she wants to do is rest or be held. And that's making her stress out. Now, obviously, babies can get the crud, as we call it in my house, but there's also another thing that happens when your child is complex like Lilah, is there could be complications. And she jumps straight to a complication that Zach developed as a child, which is hydrocephalus. So she went through and discussed all of the the telltale symptoms of a child that has this. Now, because of her dwarfism, she automatically has a larger head than normal, and because of that, they use a different chart to track her head circumference. So even though her head appears large, it could very well still be on track for the fact that for her type of dwarfism. But there are some symptoms that can occur that are indicators that there could be some excess water on the brain, including irritability, tiredness, inability to keep food down. There can also be like fussiness, pain. There's a lot of different things. I'm actually a mama of a child that has hydro. So listening to her stress out about this, I was definitely right there with her. And she talked about how she's nervous that Lilah might have this because she's exhibiting all of those signs: tiredness, irritability, pain, and she's vomiting. Poor baby girl. So she's talking with Zach and Amy about this at the kitchen table, concerned, and she wants to take her to the doctor, but she doesn't want to be like overly panicked. Obviously, this leads Amy to reminisce kind of on raising Zach, because Zach has hydrocephalus and he has had to undergo multiple procedures to manage a shunt that was placed in his head. Now, Tori describes this as excess water on the brain, but essentially what hydrocephalus is it's a condition where the body is unable to absorb the amount of fluid that's the cerebral spinal fluid in the brain, and because it isn't absorbing it fast enough, it builds up and expands ventricles, which then ultimately expands the head circumference. Typically, babies have this, and if it's diagnosed early enough, they get the shunt. But sometimes it can be diagnosed after birth, and you can get shunts later in life. She wants to go to the doctor to rule out this issue, but also make sure that there's nothing else going on. I was really impressed with this because she seems to be a really good mom, vigilant about what's going on with her kids, and very mindful of all of the complications that can come up with this. I also was very much like empathizing with her in this because I totally understand what it's like to be a mama like this and how you never know what exactly things are happening. You don't know if it's just a typical thing or if it's something more serious, and it can cause confusion, stress, and make you sort of be tearful. Well, thankfully, or maybe not thankfully for her, she ends up going to the doctor, and it turns out that Lilah doesn't actually have hydrocephalus, but instead is dealing with a bout of RSV and influenza A. This poor baby. So while out of the woods for hydro, she's certainly not out of the woods because both of those can be very serious in infants. And so now they find out they have to take her to the doctor every single day to make sure that her lungs remain clear and that she's able to maintain her oxygenation and, fevers and everything. So overall, they feel good about it, but then they also feel stressed out about the combination. And that's a big combination for a baby girl. I was I felt for her. So what I'm learning here is that Zach tends to be a little bit more laid back about everything because he's gone through so much. And so while Tori kind of has this reaction of, I don't know what it is, I'm not sure what's going to happen, what is it, is it this, is it that, going to the worst case scenario, Zach is more just like, well, let's not jump to conclusions. Let's just see if it's something else. Let's just, try to calm down. And that's kind of the approach that Amy was taking too. Like, let's start at point A, and if it gets to point G, like, let's get there. Whereas Tori was more like at point G before she could even start at point A. Either way, they took her to the doctor and they got their answers. Now, here's the question is, with that being said, knowing there's all of these different things that can come up, how does a mom like Tori raising 2 children that have dwarfism remain calm? Because if you think about it this way, Zach had to go through so many different procedures as a child. He was constantly in and out of the hospital. That put a lot of stress on Amy and on Matt. Matt has also had a lot of issues with his health as well. Amy, for her part, has managed to stay relatively healthy. Now, it's also interesting to note that Zach is the only child of Amy and Matt that has dwarfism. Her other 3 children are normal height. So now that Tori has 2, you can imagine that she is a very busy mama trying to navigate the needs of both children while also having to understand the complexities and also not being a person of normal height, having no experience with the specific disorder, which is why she heavily leans on Zach. But because of Zach's very complex medical history, it has made her a little bit more leery and very aware of the fact that things can go south very quickly. So, what do you think about this? Do you think she was stressing out for no reason? Do you understand why she would be stressed out? What do you think about Zach being more like, let's just chill, like it's not that serious? Or do you think that's just because he's already been through so much, so it's like he can't even really get worked up? You almost get desensitized to things where it's just like, it's not that bad. You know what I mean? Like, he's already had so many procedures. He's probably just like, whatever, it's not that serious. Whereas Tori has no experience. So do you think she's just sort of overreacting? Or do you think it's just like the natural mama response where she just wants to protect her baby girl? I don't know. Either way, I can empathize her on one side, and then the other side, I'm just like, I don't know. Either way, I'm glad that she's okay. I'm glad she got through it. And it's no fun to go through a health scare with your baby girl. Now, if you are a mama of a medically complex child, or if you've had a child with hydrocephalus, tell me what your thoughts are. Was Lilah exhibiting those symptoms, or would you have just considered that it might have just been like a cold or the flu? No, either way, we already know that flu and RSV are serious in children. All right, so tell me those thoughts in the comments below. Bye, guys.